Hi, so I'm Shay from Williamsburg Collegiate, and I was asked to speak a little bit about how our schools serve as landmarks for our students. Landmarks are ever present. They provide us orientation, direction, and purpose. They give us a reference point, a relative idea of where we are in the world in relation to both where we have been and where we need to be. Each of us has had landmarks in our lives, both literal and figurative. Our schools serve as landmarks for our students, and our students often serve as landmarks for us as teachers. Throughout the past 4 years I've spent at WCCS, I've had the privilege to work with several bright young minds, all of whom were hardworking, extremely talented, highly motivated, hilarious, and often pretty darn cute. Many of these students have had major impacts on me and served as landmarks in my career. There is one family who stands out among the many, the Arrazos, Tyler, Austin, and Alice. I first met Tyler 3 years ago. He was a sweet, goofy, absent-minded fifth grader with an easy smile who was more interested in daydreaming and playing with his pencils than classifying angles. He struggled with the concept of a schedule, often forgetting where he needed to be when, and was the picture of disorganization. Austin followed a year later. Sweet, soft-spoken, chubby-cheeked, and accident-prone. This past spring, he showed up to school in a full-on neck brace from an injury he sustained while playing on our school playground. This was after hours, I want to make that clear. It was not during recess. While quite cumbersome and probably very uncomfortable, the neck brace only upped his cute factor. Not even a month after his neck brace was removed, he showed up to school in an arm cast. How he managed to break his arm and where it happened is still unclear. And then there's Alice, a tiny little thing who, if you ever get to meet her, will totally remind you of Dora the Explorer, except just way less curious. She was... She was very shy and soft-spoken and constantly had to be forced to participate during class. There were several times at the beginning of the year when I noticed her shrinking into her desk, trying desperately to make herself invisible in order to avoid being called on, something that wasn't too difficult for her since she's, like, tiny. Based on appearances alone, the Arrazos could not seem more different. However, they all have one strong commonality. They struggle with reading. They each came to WCCS reading far below grade level. Austin and Alice struggle specifically with decoding, while Tyler's misunderstandings revolve more around comprehension. WCCS has served as a landmark for these three in many significant ways. Over the past 3 years, I've witnessed each of them blossom into shining examples, beacons of inspiration. I remember with tremendous pride and joy the first time Austin read a full paragraph fluently. Now reading fluently is a common occurrence for him. While he's still decoding below grade level, he is a student I look upon as a landmark example, a model for the characteristics we hope all of our students embody: inwardly motivated, hardworking, and consistent. Alice came to us a shy, fragile child, lacking confidence in her skills. The day she finally raised her hand to offer an answer during class without hesitation was monumental. This is now typical behavior for her. She is a student that I look upon as a landmark example, a model for the characteristics we hope all of our students embody: confident and unafraid to take risks. Today, Tyler is a giant among men and his classmates. He can now successfully keep up with his daily schedule, as well as keep himself organized. The day he finally wrote down all of his homework assignments and his agenda is permanently engraved in my memory. He is a student I look upon as a landmark example, a model for the characteristics we hope all of our students embody: focused, independent, and good-natured. Like the Arrazo siblings, it is vital that we as teachers serve as landmarks for our students. They come to us highly impressionable and often unclear about where their lives are headed and what their true potential is. It is our job as teachers to guide, motivate, and support them in every way possible. I'm leaving here this weekend better equipped, prepared to take on the leadership responsibilities that lay ahead. Along with this, I am leaving here renewed in my desire and determination to be a landmark in the lives of the Arrazos and every student I am fortunate to work with in the future. I hope you feel the same way. Thank you.
I'd like to close with a very brief story about a young man from the Bronx, New York. For those of you that don't know, the Bronx and its history is not all that different from the communities that we all serve. The young man was fortunate enough to have two parents in his home, unlike most of his friends. He was a decent student throughout his middle school career, but by the time he had reached high school, he had become increasingly distracted and just not that interested in school. Teachers with low expectations and a history of poor work habits had conspired to ruin his high school career. By his senior year, his girlfriend was pregnant, and his future, most certainly college, was in doubt. According to the New York City Department of Education, in 2001, the graduation rate for black males in New York was below 32%. At that point in his life, he was well on his way to becoming another statistic in the tragic tale of urban education. For many young men in this situation, graduating from high school just doesn't seem worth the trouble, let alone taking the road to college. With the choices he had made, some would have justified a decision to drop out of school and do whatever he could to provide for his family. Luckily, I didn't make that decision. I was going to end up like most of the young men I called my friends growing up on Eli Ave in the Bronx. They were talented, they were intelligent, and they were charismatic. Yet they never realized their true potential and were stuck in a cycle of poverty. Luckily, I had something that separated me from a lot of my friends. It wasn't intellect, my wife will attest to that, or even work ethic. It was a landmark. It was a landmark that I used when I was lost in a sea of negativity and low expectations that consumed many of the people in my community. This landmark refocused me and helped me to stay the course. My landmark was my older sister, Shauna. She was a person that had already seen success and reminded me at every turn that I could too. She had graduated college, she was a professional, and she was already giving back to her community. Excuses, no matter how real, simply were not good enough for her. Expectations were always high. Perhaps without even knowing it, she had planted a desire and a will to attend college and to finish it deep within my heart. For that, I'll always be thankful to her. My sister, Shauna, one of the founding teachers at North Star, was and continues to be a landmark in my life. I often think about those friends that never had that landmark. What would their lives have been? What opportunities would they have opened for themselves and for others? Never doubt the fact that you continually build landmarks like my sister every day. These are not landmarks made of bricks and concrete. Instead, they are landmarks of flesh and blood, integrity, and wisdom. You build landmarks in the teachers that you guide and mentor so that they may serve as a landmark in the lives of students who simply may not have another model to follow. You build landmarks in the students you prepare for college who may someday return to their communities and say, I did it, and so can you. And finally, the amazing schools that you have all built serve as a landmark for the families and larger communities that we serve. And it helps to redefine what it means to grow up and raise a family in Boston, Rochester, Troy, Newark, or Brooklyn. Families that should not have to rely or pray for their child's name to be randomly selected in a lottery, but instead deserve the right to give their child a quality education. This is truly an exciting time to be doing the work that we're doing together. I'm honored and humbled to be sharing this work with all the people in this room. The eyes of the world are upon us. Continue to be extraordinary, continue to change history, and continue to build landmarks. Thank you.